spoilers for all of Kingdom Hearts 1 ahead. You've been warned. Hey there, it's the Micro Ninja, and welcome to the part of my channel where I make dumb video essays either analyzing or gushing about my favorite games. This one I think is going to be more gushing than analyzing, because it's about one of my favorite game series of all time, Kingdom Hearts. When I first played this game, I was 4 years old. I had an old box TV and I used my dad's gaming chair to play this game on the PS2. It was quite literally the first game I ever played. Even though I did not understand what was happening at all, thanks to my dumb baby brain, I guess it stuck with me enough to make me revisit it in my middle school years, then again in my teenage years when the HD 1.5 remix came out for the PS3, and I couldn't be happier that this game has stuck with me all these years. Where to start with such a wonderful, convoluted game series? I guess I'll start with the first, and really hone in on why I enjoy it so much. First off, the way this game decides to start is pretty wild. This was Tetsuya Nomura's first foray into directing a game, having previously worked primarily as a character designer for the Final Fantasy series. And man, can you really tell he was behind a lot of this game's plot. At the time, of course, we didn't know about how wacky things would get, but perhaps someone should have pulled Mr. Nomura aside after seeing the premise for this game and said, "You good?" This game starts with a nice opening cutscene of Sora, our main character, questioning whether reality is, well, real or not. He talks about these weird dreams he's been having, watches his best friend get swallowed by the waves while reaching out for him, and finally sees a star falling from the sky that's actually him falling into the ocean and onto a platform with a Disney princess on it. I still don't know everything that's happening in this intro sequence, besides the obvious metaphor that the water behind Riku is actually the darkness, but that one's pretty blatant in hindsight. The tone is set for the preceding introduction segment as a sequence shrouded in mystery. Sora is questioned by a voice in his head, made to choose his preferred method to defend his friends, and shown how to fight in order to achieve that. The same voice tells him he can't open some weird-ass door, and Sora basically just shrugs and says, "Yeah, alright." It all culminates in a duel with a towering humanoid beast, a creature that literally births itself from Sora's own shadow, referred to officially as Darkseid. Now, imagine the whiplash you get when, 10 seconds later, the game transitions into a happy-go-lucky hangout with your friends on an island simulator, and Sora is basically told, forget all of that. I will be the first person to say, the story is unironically my favorite part of the Kingdom Hearts series. Full stop. I unapologetically adore it. Bouncing off what I spoke about in the introduction, we spend a few days of normal life on the island with Sora's friends, of which include Tidus, Wakka, and Selphie of the Final Fantasy series, although they're children here. At the end of each day, however, we see that Sora, Kairi, and Riku have a yearning for something more. They crave an escape off the island, to go see other worlds as they call it. They plan on building this rinky-dink fucking raft to sail on, with not even enough supplies to last them more than a few days at best. Some people call them stupid for this. I just say that they're being kids and not quite understanding how the world works. Lo and behold, before they can realize their dream of escaping the island, a giant storm flushes in intent on ruining their raft and their plans. Sora, fearing for the raft's HP, rushes out of his bedroom window, potion in hand. This is our only glimpse of Sora's mother, or to be more accurate, her voice, and you better take it in because it will forever be our last. This series does not concern itself with familial bonds. You won't hear the main cast spouting about my brother, mother, or whatever. All of the important bonds in this game are completely by choice, and are forged by genuine kinship between those who open their hearts to each other. Nomura is obviously following the original meaning of the saying, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. In fact, it's shown multiple times that the power of these bonds can give anyone a significant source of strength in the universe of Kingdom Hearts. Say the line.
I don't need a weapon. My friends are my power.
That aside, Sora arrives to see those same shadows from his dreams populating the island. He is quickly awoken to the power of the Keyblade after watching his friend Kairi turn to dust and his other friend Riku get swallowed by the darkness. Sora then aggressively swings the Keyblade in the general direction of the same hulking humanoid beast from his dreams, which is now attacking his island. This would be such an I told you so moment if Sora's friends, family, and world hadn't just been swallowed up by a giant ball of darkness. This is the kickstart of our adventure, putting our boy Sora in Traverse Town, a place where those whose worlds were lost to darkness find themselves. This causes him to eventually run into Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, Yuffie, Aerith, and Sid from Final Fantasy VII, and eventually Donald and Goofy of Disney fame. They tell him his Keyblade is the metaphorical key to save the worlds from being consumed by darkness, as it can lock the world's heart away from being consumed. Together with Donald, Goofy, and their gummy ship, they'll traverse from one Disney world to another to lock the keyholes and stop the coming flood of darkness. They explain that the shadows we've been seeing everywhere are heartless, and as long as Sora holds the Keyblade, they'll continue to chase after him. I'll stop the story synopsis here and just reference specific points in the story as they seem relevant. Sora's adventures act as a sort of coming-of-age tale for the jumpsuit-wearing dork, and he and Riku both are forced to grapple with issues far more mature than either of them. I don't think many 14-year-olds are in the hallways at school discussing who deserves the right to power that was promised to them by a voice in the sky. Or maybe they are. I'm not a doctor. The Sora, Donald, and Goofy trio dynamic is my favorite in this game out of any entry. The group is young and inexperienced, and although Donald and Goofy may have fought together in the past, Sora at this point is just a kid with a big metal stick as far as combat is concerned. Sora and Donald don't quite get along. They bicker, and that's the entire reason they even land in Deep Jungle. Rest in peace. Their relationship grows organically as teammates, and they become close friends in the process. This makes a later moment in the game where Donald unquestioningly jumps forward to Sora's defense hit that much harder. Riku, whom we've neglected so far, there's so much I want to say I could do an entire video on him really. He mirrors alongside Sora in his journey, essentially his foil. Where Sora surrounds himself with friends and the light, Riku steeps himself into darkness and complete isolation. Maleficent finds him after the events that occur on Destiny Islands, and essentially recruits him onto the villain's side. Riku, of course, thinks the darkness will give him the power to protect his friends and save Kairi, who we eventually learn is pretty much in a coma. He's misguided, steered down a course to his own destruction by the big bad, Maleficent. He witnesses from the sidelines things such as Sora, Donald, and Goofy gathered around, laughing, and having a good time. And instead of joining them, he's met with the spiteful words of Maleficent in his ear, and allows these things to drive a wedge further between him and his friends. This all culminates in their meeting in Hollow Bastion, where Riku proves the strength of his ideals and actually steals the power to wield the Keyblade from Sora. Since Donald and Goofy are under order of the king to follow the wielder of the key, Riku absorbs them into his party by technicality. Lost and hopeless, the fucking Beast from Beauty and the Beast comes to Sora's aid, encouraging him in one of the darkest periods of his life thus far. Some people can't take this kind of stuff seriously because it's the Beast, but if you can look past that, some of the advice the Beast gives Sora is insane. In the darkest times, hope is something you give yourself. Like, wow. Wait, that was Uncle Iroh. Cut the tapes. Kairi, having lost her heart after the events in Destiny Islands, lies at the center of the game's narrative, having Sora and Riku each with their own methods desperately attempt to save her, both believing their method to be the only and correct way. She's the catalyst that keeps the adventure going, until she's not. Oh yeah, I kinda skimmed over the fact that Maleficent of all people is the ringleader of the game's antagonists, at least until, well, yeah. Speaking of the game's antagonists, since Sora is traveling from one Disney world to another, Disney movie villains take the reins and become the antagonist for each world. Some of my personal favorites from the gang are Oogie Boogie, Jafar, and Clayton. Why those three in particular? Well, Oogie Boogie is a perfect fit for the game. He's wacky, but still serious enough to pose some sort of threat. Jafar, I like for the opposite reasons. He's cold, calculating, and gets shit done, at least in the first game. Clayton, he's not even a part of the Shadow Organization of baddies. He's just some dude with a gun that wants to kill gorillas. He's so comically evil, he just attracts the heartless to Deep Jungle, and I think that's hilarious. Also, he just straight up shoots you. All the Disney villains form a group, led by the previously mentioned Maleficent, with the shared goal of attaining Kingdom Hearts. I don't think it's ever explained in detail why all these villains want Kingdom Hearts, but considering they thought Kingdom Hearts was everlasting darkness or whatever, it seems pure power was the main motivating factor. While on the topic of villains, the game gives you a little switcheroo at the end, where
It is I, Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness.
steals the show, overtaking Riku's body and revealing that he was planning on opening Kingdom Hearts all along, and everyone else was just a puppet. Can I just say, thematically, this final fight between Sora and Riku Ansem is in my top 3 favorite one-on-one fights in the entire series. Some of you could probably guess my number 1 spot. The stakes are high, you're fighting for Kairi's heart, the girl who pushed Sora and Riku both forward on their adventure. The arena is the inner steampunk-esque workings of Hollow Bastion, and
There's no way you're taking Kairi's heart!
is a line that sticks with me to this day, the era of unskippable cutscenes etching this dialogue into my nightmares forever. And then Sora's sacrifice. Once he figures out that Kairi's heart is inside him, he does not hesitate to stab himself with Riku Ansem's Keyblade of Hearts to save her. Donald runs and screams for Sora to stop, and this moment, especially as a kid, always got me. A sad cartoon duck screeching made me cry, I admit it. Sora doesn't skip a beat, grinning to Donald and Goofy as he literally offs himself in front of them, all because he thinks it would save his friend. This kid is 14. He just committed suicide for the sake of his friends. Kids game my ass. This act of self-sacrifice causes a lot of problems further in the series too. Like, so many more than you would think. And boom! Kairi's awake thanks to Sora's heroic deeds, and Sora himself is still a scientific phenomenon. I always thought it was nice that Riku had the strength of heart here to fight back against Ansem, even if for a little bit. It's a good moment that really shows the strength of his convictions, and since Riku is one of my favorite characters, I am here for it. Since Sora committed a Livent, he's turned into a Heartless. This leads into him chasing the group down, and Donald just bonking him on the head repeatedly to leave. This is the equivalent of hitting a snake on the head with a stick. This thing could still hurt you, Donald! Kairi, with her connection to Sora and power as a Princess of Heart, saves Sora from the light, and everything is all hunky-dory now. You take her back to Traverse Town and she gives you one of the coolest Keyblades in the game. Come on. You know this thing is cool. The importance of friendship and the bonds you forge with the people you meet cannot be understated with this game's overarching story. Sora forms genuine connections with every individual he comes across. His heart is an open book. He's the embodiment of what it means to be a kid, and he wears his heart on his sleeve, a saying which I think fits Sora and the series perfectly. As far as the overall narrative goes, this game definitely has the least messy plot. It's as close to open and shut as you can really get with Kingdom Hearts, even with its ending being so open. The only game that probably has a definitive the end would be Kingdom Hearts 2, but we're not there yet. I could probably talk for another hour or so if I just kept at it, and I hate to end the story section so abruptly, but we need to move on to gameplay. Kingdom Hearts 1, specifically, is a really good mixture of action RPG and platforming. An odd mix, especially for the time, but it works so well. First off, let's talk about that HUD. You have this box in the bottom left, called your command menu. It's where you select all your actions like attack, magic, and so on. While I vastly prefer the more stylized command menus of Kingdom Hearts 2, this simple menu does hold a nice place in my heart. Hand-drawn character portraits with a circular health and mana bar. Oh my god, I have always loved this style. I think seeing the health bar shoot out like some malformed green candy cane is so cool. Pair that with the portrait changing when you take damage or when you're low HP. Oh. Oh dear god, that sound. Get it away from me! The core gameplay can really be boiled down to your top 2 commands. Hit things or shoot funny spells at them. Sora starts with a simple 3-hit combo that's as slow as Christmas on the ground but feels pretty well paced for the air, and doesn't start learning any spells until he runs into Donald and Traverse Town. As Sora progresses in levels, you unlock new abilities, and their order changes depending on what weapon you picked at the start. Pick the sword? Well, you're going to be getting a lot of combo plus, damage up, and cool weapon skills a lot earlier. Pick the shield, you get defensive skills earlier, like ones that allow you to always survive a hit with 1 HP as long as you had more than 1 HP before you took the hit. This shield is really good for harder difficulties. And if you pick the staff, you'll get some early skills that boost your MP pool and magic damage with certain affinities of spells. Magic in this game is pretty cool. You get 3 hotkeys for way more than 3 spells, so I hope you like picking favorites. Fire is simple. You shoot a fireball at the enemy and it goes poof. Blizzard? Well, now we're talking ice, going in multiple directions. Thunder is a screen AoE of damage. Arrow ups your defense so you take less damage, and spells like Cure, well, they cure you. The magic system is one I never found myself using in Kingdom Hearts 1 outside of Cure and Arrow. Thankfully, in most entries past this point, the magic system is a lot more fleshed out and actually feels viable to use. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are magic builds that work great for KH1, but I just hit stuff with a big metal stick and move on with my day. Keychains, which in this game are more often than not just rigid stat increases, allow you to customize the look of your Keyblade and also get some nice bonuses from them. You have 3 lengths of Keyblade, being short, medium, and long. Not only Goofy get different weapons that change appearance as well. This, along with accessories that can fit on anyone in the party, really gives you a nice sense of building your character and comrades how you want, along with allocating your ability points to specific abilities to make a Sora that fits your playstyle, and a Donald and Goofy that are a more effective meat shield. Feeling Sora develop throughout the journey is great. At the start, he's quite literally just a kid that's swinging the Keyblade around. His movements are slow, sluggish, and he should be thankful that the Keyblade works so well as a beating stick. But by the end of the game, he's starting his combos off with a quick lunge, sliding across the floor after kicking off his Keyblade in order to close a gap, and becoming a Beyblade while in the air. Through the story, the player receives upgrades to their platforming abilities in pretty even increments. You get the ability to high jump inside Monstro, and the lore explains that you gain the ability to glide by using Tinkerbell's pixie dust from Neverland. This is so cool! Giving gameplay mechanics a lore justification just helps make a game feel so cohesive. I love it. The sense of progression is tangible, and nothing happens so fast that the player feels like, hey, this 14-year-old shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, by Hollow Bastion you're probably thinking, of course Sora can Beyblade in the air. The kid beat Oogie Boogie. Then there's the secret bosses. Kurt Zisa, who I'm sure a lot of people know is named after a lucky winner of a Kingdom Hearts name-in-game contest. A cool boss in the deserts of Agrabah where you switch between only being able to use magic and only being able to use melee. I had a lot of trouble with this boss as a kid. The Phantom, appearing in the Big Ben area of Neverland, has a rather neat gimmick of having to cast a specific spell based on the color of the orb under his cloak. You also have to constantly cast Stop on the clock hands of Big Ben, otherwise your party's doom counters will tick down until they die. Oh, they're just knocked out, I hear you say. Their portrait disappears. They're dead. Then you have Sephiroth, the staple secret boss that a lot of folks seem to love. I hate this guy. In a good way, of course. Nothing can compare to the fear you first experience when you choose the question marks option from Phil, wondering what exactly it could be. Then you see Sephiroth descend from the heavens, one-winged angel begins to play, and you contemplate your life decisions up to this point. Of course, you don't have long to contemplate considering your life is cut short within the next few seconds. Even if you do manage to land a hit on him, his HP bar doesn't even move because he has that much HP to start with. I've only ever beat Sephiroth once. At the end of the day, this game's combat is extremely satisfying, even if it feels a bit clunky to start. To go from kid who can barely swing a stick to, oh dear god, does that count as genocide? Is a wonderful feeling. Music. This will be a short segment, but you can't talk about Kingdom Hearts without talking about its music. Simple and Clean lives completely rent-free in my head. Hearing it as a child just somehow glued me to this game, and now every time I hear it, a mixture of nostalgia and sadness washes over me. I cannot overstate how much something as simple as the opening to this game has impacted so much about me as a person. You might think that's crazy. I just really like the music in this game. Even the renditions of Disney themes are absolute bops. I mean, I love The Nightmare Before Christmas already, but now I love it even more because the lyricless version of the main song that plays in Halloween Town is pretty much always stuck in my head. And to bring the opening theme back for the end of the game, when tensions are high and Sora frustratingly gets separated from Kairi. That scene with the music starting its first notes as soon as Sora and Kairi's hands separate, that hits different. I cannot watch this scene without absolutely losing myself in my emotions. Man, I love this game. Kingdom Hearts is a game very near and dear to my heart. The gameplay is solid and fun. The music strikes you in your heart if you let it, and there's something about its story that has always grabbed me more than any other game I've ever played. If I had to pinpoint it to one specific thing, I'm not so sure I could. It has lovable, well-written characters that form genuine bonds with each other and push each other forward in life thanks to these bonds. Sora is a pure cinnamon roll who just wants to be happy with his friends. Riku is a lost and misguided character that just wants the best for the people he cares about. Kairi, for all the faults people say she has in her character, is a girl that just wanted a normal life with her friends at the end of the day, and had it stripped away from her. The first Kingdom Hearts game, to me, is a tragedy. This simple group of friends from an island just wanted to be together again, and it ends on a very somber note. Sora, Donald, and Goofy are trapped in the realm of darkness, along with Riku and King Mickey, although the two groups are completely separated. Kairi is sent away back to Destiny Islands to live out the rest of her life alone. Sora defeated the big bad, but now everyone is split apart. It's not a triumphant "we saved the day" ending. It's sad, and I can remember even as a child crying my eyes out over the ending cutscene. Even little me knew this isn't how stuff is supposed to end, but it's that bittersweet ending that makes you want more as a fan. Nomura sure knows how to play with people's hearts. I love Kingdom Hearts, and I don't think I'll ever stop. This video essay was really just me gushing about the beginning to a franchise that, although it's gotten out of hand, will never lose me as a fan. Whatever crazy stuff Nomura has planned for the future, I'm here for the ride. This has been the Micro Ninja, and I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching.